Oh god, people are gonna be so mad at me for this, aren't they?
The Ultimate Showdown of Ultimate Destiny was released in December of 2005. It's still one of Neil Cicierega's most iconic tracks, but given how it relies on basically naming people from pop culture, it begs the question, if the Ultimate Showdown of Ultimate Destiny was released today, what characters would show up? This doesn't mean I'm replacing every character with a character who came out after 2005, because as it turns out, the sum total of human culture is mostly from before that year, but I have made sure that every new character comes into prominence at a later date than the character they replace, so there is still forward movement in all cases.
Old Godzilla was hopping around Tokyo City like a big playground.
Yeah, Old Godzilla is right. Godzilla is one of the first kaiju in popular culture. Most people agree it's the most iconic kaiju ever, which makes it a tough act to follow. One potential replacement I thought of was Mothra. It is by the same people, and it only exists because of Godzilla's success. But at this point they've both been established characters for over 60 years, so replacing Godzilla with Mothra doesn't make the Ultimate Showdown feel any newer. Pacific Rim has a whole host of kaiju that we can pick from, but these kaiju don't have the same vibe as Godzilla. In the Pacific Rim universe, humanity has developed mecha to fight the kaiju on a somewhat equal footing, but Godzilla is a living natural disaster, far outweighing anything that comes in front of it. So my final pick to replace Godzilla is Mongo, the giant gingerbread man from Shrek 2. Mongo's sheer size and brute strength is rivaled only by perhaps Dragon. Mongo is a key component of Shrek's invasion of the castle, and it takes concentrated fire from experimental weaponry to down him, but he did enough to help Shrek win the day, and there's no way he would have gotten over that wall without him.
Suddenly Batman burst from the shade.
Batman is another one of those classic characters. He's a stealthy superhero known for having many tricks up his sleeve and a clever disguise. My replacement for Batman is different to him in many ways, but similar in many more. Say hello to Robbie Rotten from Lazy Town. Much like Batman, he has his own lair, a whole assortment of gadgets that help him go against his much more physically capable opponents, and of course it can't be overstated, a mastery of disguise.
But didn't expect to be blocked by Shaq.
Shaquille O'Neal was one of the best basketball players of all time, known for his impressive physicality and feats of combat prowess as detailed in the video game Shaq Fu. I'm replacing him with LeBron James, as he is also one of the greatest basketball players, using his skills to save the Looney Tunes in Space Jam 2.
Aaron Carter came out of the blue.
Aaron Carter was a very famous singer in the late 90s and early 2000s. He's had some projects in the recent years, including a charity boxing match, okay. But overall, he seems like one of those child stars whose fame kinda fizzled out at this point and he doesn't know how to deal with it, so he's had some run-ins with the law and such. But back when the Ultimate Showdown came out, he was 18 years old and doing just fine. Now, okay, listen. I feel like pointing at one of the teenage superstars of today and giving them a prophecy of, like, mental breakdowns and waning fame is just bad juju. So I'm gonna give Aaron Carter's spot to someone who's already kind of in that phase. Please give a warm welcome to Jake Paul. Bonus points cause Jake Paul does boxing now, so there's that.
Abraham Lincoln popped out of his grave.
Oh boy. Abraham Lincoln is the most puzzling character of the Ultimate Showdown. First of all, he is one of the two dead historical figures to be mentioned in the song, but the only one who canonically was dead then came back to life. But the plot thickens. Just listen to what happens next.
I took an AK-47 out from under his hat.
So Lincoln, right? He died in 1865 and was buried shortly after that. The AK-47 Kalashnikov rifle was developed in 1947. This is not the first time Abraham Lincoln has popped out of his grave. That's not even going into how he was buried in Illinois for the first time, and this battle takes place in Tokyo City. But if we're gonna go there, I think the only reason this battle takes place in Tokyo is because Godzilla was hopping around it like a big playground. So by that logic, this new battle takes place in the fictional kingdom of Far Far Away. That doesn't elucidate the Lincoln debacle in any way, but it is a point to note. So in order to have the anachronisms kinda line up, I'm gonna give JFK a ray gun.
Because Optimus Prime came to save the day.
Optimus Prime is a staunch defender of humanity who is also a member of an alien race of robots. I actually found it very hard to find a somewhat modern replacement for him. A lot of the transforming robot stuff really seemed to have popped off in the 80s and 90s. I ultimately settled on Clank from Ratchet & Clank, since he's also a good guy robot that transforms even if he's not particularly known for it.
But Jackie Chan jumped out and landed on his back.
Jackie Chan is an actor and martial artist known for doing his own crazy stunts. I immediately knew who was gonna replace this guy. This is the guy who plays Sportacus in Lazy Town. I don't know how to say his name, so I won't. Granted, the athletic feats of Sportacus are much less varied than Jackie Chan's many roles, but if you've seen Lazy Town, you know Sportacus backflips fucking everywhere. Like, it is his primary method of locomotion. You can't CG that shit. My man has done thousands of perfect backflips just for this show.
Indiana Jones took him out with his whip.
Indiana Jones is a wisecracking explorer who visits ancient ruins in pursuit of treasure. I'm replacing him with Nathan Drake from Uncharted, since what they do is quite similar, and Indiana Jones was a direct inspiration for Drake.
And they both got hit by a Care Bear stare.
Care Bears are a cutesy toy line intended for children, but the internet has correctly identified them as harbingers of dread. They have only one worthy successor: Furbies. You can't tell me those things aren't alive.
Angels sang out in an immaculate chorus. Down from the heavens descended Chuck Norris.
2005 is the year people really started to recognize Chuck Norris as one of the most powerful beings in the universe. He attacks sharks when he smells them bleed, he doesn't go swimming, water just wants to be around him, and his fists make the speed of light wish that it was faster. His overwhelming strength makes it impossible to take him on one-on-one, which is why in the Ultimate Showdown, many characters put aside their differences to have a shot at beating him. His godlike status is somewhat less spoken of today, and internet culture has identified some characters that might match his power. I would say the most deserving successor is Shaggy, but Chuck Norris's first acting gig and the release of the original Scooby-Doo cartoon were events that happened quite close together in time, so I'm going to sidestep this by specifically referring to Shaggy from the 2004 cult classic, Scooby-Doo 2: Monsters Unleashed.
Then Gandalf the Grey and Gandalf the White.
Gandalf the Grey and Gandalf the White are the same person on either side of a transformation sequence. Much like how Gandalf the Grey took a great fall and emerged as Gandalf the White, Walter White took a great fall and emerged as Heisenberg. I mean, it's perfect. They each have a form with the name White in it.
And Monty Python and the Holy Grail's Black Knight.
Maybe it's bad form to introduce two characters from the same show in quick succession, but Hector Salamanca is the perfect replacement for the Black Knight. They both have so much vitriol and a body that won't let them carry out their desires of violence. I guess I can specifically refer to Hector from Better Call Saul, since in the prequel we get to see him have bodily autonomy and then lose it.
Benito Mussolini.
Benito Mussolini is the other dead historical figure in the Ultimate Showdown. People kinda tend to look at him as Adolf Hitler's number 2, but he was a very evil guy in his own right. It's probably fine to put Kim Jong-il in here, right? You know, Kim Jong-il, the previous dictator of North Korea before his son Kim Jong-un took over. That guy who had the state-sponsored funeral that you better have been seen crying at. No one's gonna come after me for somehow misrepresenting or slandering this dead dictator, right? I think that's safe.
And the Blue Meanie.
Blue Meanies are the bad guys of this old-ass Beatles animated film called Yellow Submarine. I had no idea such a thing even existed, but here we are. The Blue Meanies are very much blue, very much meanies, and their most heinous characteristic in the movie is their hatred of music. Finding a direct modern parallel to something like this is quite difficult, as it is a unique concept. I ultimately went with Gustavo Rock from the hit Nickelodeon show Big Time Rush. His personality is big, mean, and abrasive, and even though he's the producer for Big Time Rush, the band after which the show is named, he often has an antagonistic relationship with them. But spoilers for a 50-year-old animated movie, the Chief Blue Meanie eventually has a change of heart, showing he had a good side all along. Similarly, Gustavo often has moments that peel away his tough exterior and show that he really does care for his boys.
And Cowboy Curtis and John B. the Genie.
Cowboy Curtis and John B. the Genie are two characters from a mid-80s children's show called Pee-wee's Playhouse. And no, don't rub your eyes, that is Lawrence Fishburne playing Cowboy Curtis. This hilarious fact is crucial to my choice of replacements for these two. Say hi to Sam and Cat from Sam and Cat, the Nickelodeon spin-off show of iCarly and Victorious. This is mostly cause Cat is portrayed by Ariana Grande, who, much like Lawrence Fishburne, is better known for her later work.
Robocop, Terminator, Captain Kirk, and Darth Vader.
This is the part of the song where they have unlikely duos come together against Chuck Norris, so it only makes sense to handle them together. Robocop and the Terminator are two iconic characters from two franchises about badass robots, so I've made them into Minecraft Steve and Fortnite Default Skin, two iconic characters from two games known for their building. Similarly, Captain Kirk and Darth Vader are two iconic characters from two rivaling franchises about space. I've made them into Gru from Despicable Me and Megamind from Megamind, two protagonists in animated movies about being a bad guy that came out in the same year. If you think that's a little bit of a stretch, yeah, it is. I just want my boy Megamind in here.
Lopan, Superman.
Lopan is the evil sorcerer from the movie Big Trouble in Little China, which is coincidentally the source of this incredible image. I'm gonna give this one to Loki from the Avengers, since I'll probably be killed if someone from the MCU doesn't show up here. Superman is Superman. We all know Superman, the granddaddy of the superhero genre. He's a paragon of justice and incredibly overpowered, but not even Superman can take out everything in Saitama is the perfect successor to Superman because he's a perfect reflection of what it feels like to live in the modern day. He's the strongest being in the universe, but also a depressed 25-year-old.
Every single
Power Rangers are superheroes that wear goofy color-coded suits. There are many Power Rangers series, and apparently most of them are part of the same universe, which means over 100 Power Rangers joined the fight against Chuck Norris. Before I started making this video, I had no idea of the vastness of the Power Rangers universe. There really is no modern analog to the Power Rangers, since 1, it's a very difficult thing to make, and 2, any modern series, by definition, just hasn't had the time to develop to that scale.
I settled with the gems from Steven Universe,
Since there's a lot of them and they are color-coded sometimes.
Bill S. Preston and Theodore Logan.
Bill and Ted are two dorky dudes who go on many wacky time-traveling adventures. I've given their spots to Sans and Papyrus from Undertale. They're also quite a close and comedic duo, and frankly I don't think a modern Ultimate Showdown would be complete without Sans' Undertale. Granted, Sans doesn't time travel per se, but he is aware of the player character's timeline shenanigans.
Spock, the Rock, Doc Ock, and Hulk Hogan.
Spock from Star Trek is known for being the guy who thinks things through, the champion of facts and logic. There is only one heir to his throne, Sheldon Cooper from The Big Bang Theory. No, I will not be taking criticisms. Here's where we get to a tricky one. The Ultimate Showdown of Ultimate Destiny features 2 professional wrestlers, and they are both currently retired, but they're not exactly relics of the past. There just isn't a new generation of truly iconic wrestlers known to people who aren't wrestling fans that I can draw from. Yeah, I could put in someone like John Cena who started his wrestling career after The Rock did, but in the public consciousness they're all part of the same era, so I'm gonna make this one a bit more abstract. Wrestling is an ancient sport, basically as old as civilization. And yes, traditional wrestling still does exist, but its popularity is outshone by a new, modern form more appealing to the masses. What else is a sport with millennia of history and a very modern revival? That's right. Chess. Over the pandemic, chess blew up, and I mean blew up. Before it was like, chess is a smart people game, and if you can play it well, you're an intellectual of the highest level. But now people see it for what it is, a board game. A board game with a lot of study and rich strategy, but a board game nonetheless. And sure, the hype today doesn't quite reach the peaks it did in the pandemic, but on a global scale, chess will never be looked at the same way again. So which chess players will be our wrestlers? The Rock made a transition from very charismatic wrestler to very charismatic actor, and it's not a stretch to say he's the most successful ex-wrestler of all time. Similarly, Hikaru Nakamura is one of the best chess players today, but during the pandemic his Twitch streams really took off, and he was a lot of people's introduction to chess content. As for Hulk Hogan, I'll replace him with Eric Hansen, another chess grandmaster and content creator. This is because, much like Hulk Hogan and The Rock, Hikaru and Eric have fought each other, and I don't mean on the chessboard. Coming back to Doc Ock from Spider-Man, he can be Dr. Doofenshmirtz from Phineas and Ferb. Yeah, good luck rhyming Doofenshmirtz with anything, but if you got this far into the video without understanding I have no intention of making this sound musically good, that's on you.
The champion stood, the rest saw their better. Mr. Rogers in a bloodstained sweater.
This is the last one. Our eventual winner, Mr. Rogers. An incredible man beloved by children and adults alike. A man whose wholesomeness has been memed to hell and back, and a man who will survive everybody else. Who today will take up the mantle of Mr. Rogers? It is none other than Keanu Reeves. We've always known Keanu Reeves is a nice guy, but the internet fully embraced it only recently. Congratulations, Keanu. You were so breathtaking, you were the only one breathing at the end of it all.